Okay, welcome back to the Molkef Cake channel. Today we're going to be looking at some PS1 graphics. I think this is arguably the easiest style of graphics to be making, especially nowadays. I know an awful lot of people do find it kind of complicated, but I want to walk through the entire workflow. I tried this for the first time yesterday, and I got a whole PC set up in about an hour, and I was like, oh my god, this is like so simple. So I really want to do that. I want to walk through the modeling element, I want to walk through the trim sheet element, and I also want to model or walk through the importing of the model into like Unreal Engine. I'm going to use Unreal Engine. I'm not familiar with Unity, but I'm sure you guys know what you're at. Like, so let's get into it. So just in our normal scene, we're just going to do a couple of quick checks in scene. We're going to make sure that we're at meters and unit scale. This is going to be quite important for Unreal, and it just means that when we're in orthographic view and we go to the front, this is obviously 1 meter. So we know, like if I look at my computer, it's about 50 centimeters tall. So we're gonna try and keep it nice and simple. We are gonna keep it nice and simple. We don't want to overcomplicate anything when it comes to PS1 style graphics, because that's not what it's all about. Like, we want to make sure that we have we keep it nice and simple, because it's going to be boxy, it's going to be pixelated. The texture files are 256 by 256, so it's it is very small. So you see, like there's our desktop. We're going to use that, and we just check the sizes: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I've gone for 60 centimeter, probably a little bit big. We can drop that down to 50. And we've gone for 30 centimeters wide. Mine's is actually about that. It's quite a square PC, and obviously we've applied the transitions as well. So now to go onto the monitor, we just need to make this a little bit smaller. We'll go for maybe there. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 60. Yeah, that seems about all right. Again, it doesn't need to be wildly too challenging. This is actually a great way, I think, for people to really start in Blender, because it's not overly difficult. So we're just going to get the back face here, and we're just going to go to the front, and so we can see through it. I've X-ray on. We're going to insert face, and then when we come out to the top, we're going to extrude that face a bit, and then we're just going to scale it down a small bit, so we can see there that we already have something that resembles a PC. Again, if you're working in this for a game engine, you can put in a model, like a character model, or you can even put in like a cube or a cylinder at the same height as your game characters, so you have a rough idea as to the size. But remember, in the engine, you can scale up or scale down. You don't want to do it too much, because obviously you're going to lose detail with your mesh, but you don't need to be too fussy. So I'm just going to scale this in a little bit here. I'm going to take this bottom, turn UV off, or turn X-ray off. We're going to take this bottom corner here, and we're just going to come up a little bit, because sometimes I want to try and see if I can get a bit of detail, a little bit of detail in this bottom face. We're just going to go into face select, go here, turn our X-ray back on, and we're just going to extrude in a small bit. Again, it's just detail, so we have that bit of a bit of shadow in the engine. And then we're just going to scale in ever so slightly. And then we're going to come to the bottom face, and we're going to go to the bottom, and we're going to insert a small bit and scale then on the X axis, so we can have this. And then we're going to go to the front. We're going to come down a small little bit. We're going to extrude and then scale, and then extrude down a little bit, and then just press F. So there we go. That's kind of like our computer. I think that looks pretty good. I'm happy enough with that. I'm just going to make sure that we can now set the pivot point. I'm going to actually have to look, I think, at the importing to Unreal again. It's been a long time since I've been using Unreal, so actually, do you know what? Maybe we'll just throw it in there, will we? Yeah, and just apply all transforms. So there we go. So far we have our computer, we have our tower. And remember, a big thing with the PS1 graphics is this over here. This is your scene information. If you can't see this, come over here into this little, the overlays, come down and just click statistics. And the statistics will show you exactly your vertex count, your face count, your edges, and your triangles that are going to be in your scene. With PS1, it's super important that you keep this as low poly as possible. When people talk about low poly, some people might be thinking, okay, well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to do that art style? But realistically, just take an object and break it down. Try and make it simple looking. You know, you're not looking for ultra realistic items. You're looking for something nice and simple. Like, how long has it been? It's been 5 minutes and we have a computer and a desktop already done. So it's not about complication. It's about keeping it nice and simple. So next thing we want to do then, we'll just move these out of the way and we will add a plane. Control A, by the way, is the add shortcut. Just get a plane, roughly, looking at my own computer. We're probably going to go about there. Oh, there we go. So get the edge select and then come over. What are we looking at? Maybe 40 centimeters? What's that, 50 centimeters? We can go a little bit bigger because sometimes in video games you kind of have to go a little bit bigger. I don't know, it's all about the visuals really, isn't it? So you just have to make sure that when you're looking at it like this or put it into perspective view, you're looking at, yeah, okay, I can imagine that in my video game. Yeah, that looks pretty okay. So we're just, again, we're going to select this face now. So we're just going to go to face select and select this face, go to the top. And all we're going to do is just insert a bit. We just want to insert a small amount and then we're going to press G and bring that up. Hopefully on the vertical, there we are. Bring that up and there we go. That's our keyboard. We're just gonna select this bottom edge here and we're just gonna fill that for the sake of it. You won't see it, but sure, why not? Why wouldn't you fill it? We're running I mean, the optimization at these numbers is nearly negligible. It really is nearly negligible, so I would not be worrying too much. What you can do is maybe just select this face here. Maybe, scale it a little bit just so it's less steep. Again, if you're wanting to scale on something particular, you can just press a face like this here. You can press S, and just if you have this problem where you can't really see it too well in this actually, but one second, just change that to random. 1 second, just to make sure that there we are. Okay. And turn on cavity as well. Okay, just, yeah, this might be a wee bit easier. So if you've got this face selected, but when you're on top and you're trying to scale and you get this like, oh god, it's going everywhere, it's just because your mouse is too close to the center point of where you're going to scale. So just bring your mouse out a little bit and then scale, and you see the difference. You see how you're able to change that without it being too, I suppose, steep. If you're wanting again to scale on a certain axis, you can just press S and you can go Y and it'll only go that way, or you can press S and go X, or you can do S and Z. That's really if you've kind of got two obviously parallel faces together. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Like, again, we're going to keep it nice and simple. It's just to kind of go through a few key elements that you're going to be able to use elsewhere in your modeling, basically. Actually, what I'm going to do is just make this a little bit wider. So G, X, there we go. I think that looks a little bit better, to be honest with you. Now just all transforms. So there we go. Now, obviously, it's going to depend on what you're wanting to move and what you're not wanting to move. If these are just going to be static items, as in they're going to be in the game and you're not going to be interacting with them, they're not going to be moving, they're just going to be sitting there, well then, when it comes to the likes of a mouse and a mouse pad, you can model them together. You don't need to model them independently. And again, it just makes it a little bit easier and it keeps the count down a little bit. So we're just going to press G. I'm going to see if I can get some cool like PS1 audio to put over the top of this, but I don't know if I'll be able to or not. I think we'll go for something maybe that size. Does that look all right for a mouse pad? Yeah. We're just going to apply all the transforms and then come into edit, and then we're going to put two loop cuts, 1 and 2, and then we're going to select this vertex right here and we're going to bevel, so Control B and then V to bevel like this, and we're wanting, yeah, maybe that. So we've got this circle on the flat plane. What we're wanting to do next then is we're wanting to scale it on the X-axis so we can make it more like a mouse. And then what we're wanting to do is we're going to delete those faces. We're going to select the edges. We're going to fill them. We're going to go to the front, and then we're going to extrude up a bit, and then we can actually bevel again. Oh, if your bevel looks like this, a couple of quick tips. if your bevel looks like this, to create the first circle, the circle on the plane, you go to, actually, do you know what? Fuck it. I'm actually just going to start again, and I can walk you through the whole process there. So Control A and get a plane. Then we're going to scale that right down, so just a little bit over 20 centimeters. We're going to apply all the transforms. We're going to go into Edit, Control R for a loop cut, press in, and then move it over here somewhere to the edge. And then we're doing another loop cut here, and we can just keep that in the middle. Then what we're wanting to do is we're gonna bevel on the vertex. I'm sorry for skipping this. I know not everybody knows how to do this. So Control B and then Control V. Now yours isn't going to look like this if you haven't done a bevel on the new save file. It's going to look like this, right? Which is no problem. If you're wanting a circle, all you need to do is just change the profile shape to 0.1, and that gives you this circular shape, and just do clamp overlap. Then what you want to do is, while that's still selected, press S and then just move on the X-axis to kind of narrow it down. Remember, we're going for that mouse shape. And then you can kind of play around with that. I don't think that's going to look too bad. And just get rid of those extra faces. So just X and delete the faces. Go into Edge Select this edge. So by pressing Alt and just click the edge. We're going to press F to infill. We're going to go to front and then E and then Z. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to press B, come back in here, and then 0.5. There we go. So you can play around with this. It obviously depends on how low poly you're wanting to go. Like, again, don't forget, this is your model. You can do whatever you like. So don't feel pressure to follow me. Don't feel pressure to follow anybody. Do what you want to do. And so basically what we have here is we have this this mouse. If you're wanting to off kilter it, I think, nope. Just go back where we have that. We can, I think, if I'm not wrong, we can just rotate it. Not sure. Yeah, we can. We can just rotate it. Actually, we can move it anywhere we like, to be honest. So there we go. You can have that if you want. And so basically that's it. That is our mouse, keyboard, and desktop all done. I'm just gonna apply all transforms there as well. So let's just move all this back together. So we're going to bring our keyboard over here. We're going to put, maybe we spin on that. We can put the desktop over here, put a spin on that as well, and then the actual desktop itself. So you can imagine now if you had a little desk. We could actually throw in a desk if you want. Do you want me to throw in a desk? I'll throw in a desk. It's been 12 minutes. So in 12 minutes with me explaining and making this, there we go. So this is our low poly computer with the mouse, keyboard, the whole shebang. And we are sitting at a total of 112 vertices. So that's incredible. For anybody that doesn't know, I might post in a picture here of like a computer for a high poly game and just with the vertex count, just so you can see the difference. But this is remarkably efficient. Remarkably efficient. So we're just going to move them back out of the way. And oh. And then what we're going to do is we're going to throw in a table as well, because do you know what? Why not? Why wouldn't we throw in a table? So we're just going to, what do we want it? We're just going to scale it out a bit. Perfect. Apply all transforms and then come into edit mode. Then we're going to extrude that face up. That's probably a wee bit chunky. It's 10 centimeters. So it's a wee bit chunky. We don't want something that big, a little bit ridiculous. Yeah, will we fit everything on that? Maybe at a crush. So what we'll do is we'll just make it a little bit wider or a little bit deeper or whatever. Yeah, that's much better. I like having the rotation point on the corner. Again, this is going to be something that people, you'll figure that out yourself. Maybe you like that, maybe you won't as much, but just get these and move them up a little bit, and then we can move our table up a little bit. Then what we're wanting to do is we are going to add some legs. So again, get a cube. We're going to, what would we want? So we want maybe 0.25 or not 0.025. So 5 centimeters is maybe a little bit slim. But feck it, we will get it. So we're just going to edit mode. We'll actually scale that up a little bit because I think that might be a little bit too small. Then what we're going to do, I think we can do a mirror, if I'm not wrong. So if we come in here, we'll just put a mirror modifier on. So move this in here for mirroring. If you're wanting to move on the grid, by the way, press and hold shift. And if you're wanting to move anywhere, you know, where you're not bound by the grid, hold control. And sometimes you can do it, it just depends. You can move without holding either, just move around. But it does depend. Sometimes you do have to hold shift. If you kind of got something that's like a weird size, sometimes you have to hold shift. So let's just get rid of this for a second. Press H to hide something, by the way. So if you're wanting to hide this, you can press H. Alt H unhides everything. If you're wanting to hide everything except what you're selecting, Shift H hides everything else, and then Alt H brings it all back. Okay, so we're just going to select our leg, and then we're going to Shift H. Okay, so we're going to come back in now, and we're going to find our little leg, and we're going to go on the top. We're going to view selected. There we are, and we're just going to go into edit mode. And what size is that? That is small. So maybe we'll just make this a little bit bigger. What's that? Nearly 5 centimeters. Again, like, it doesn't need to be exact. You see there, so if I move that there, I'm not on the x-axis. If I want to be closer to the x-axis, rather than pressing control where I lose the snap, if I hold alt, it snaps, okay? So again, just another little trick to move along a grid. Now I think what we'll do is we'll make these 1 meter tall, or thereabouts, because yeah, it's about 1 meter for a table. Maybe we'll make it a little bit smaller, make it 90, okay? Then what we're going to do is we are going to hopefully add mirror modifiers. Over here on the right hand side, we're going to generate, come down and go to a mirror, we're going to go on the X and the Y, and then you have to, if you're moving something, this is where I see an awful lot of people have problems, is that when you're putting mirror modifiers on, if I try and add a mirror modifier here, and then I try and move my subject, my item, look how it's not mirroring, okay? So if you have this problem where you have a mirror modifier on, and then you're trying to move it around and you're like, oh, why isn't my mirror modifier working? It's because you have to be in edit mode. The mirror modifier works at the point of your transform. So where the location is set in the world. So when I keep saying to you, Control A, apply, and location, that location point is set. So when you click all transforms and you set that, it's gonna mirror from that point. And so, as I said, when you're in object mode, you can move it around, nothing happens. When I go into edit mode though, however, and I select all and then I move around, there we go, you see, now it's fixed. And if I go back into object mode, it stays there. Okay, so little handy trick. Yeah, little handy trick. I think you know, I do see an awful lot of people struggling with that, so hopefully now you won't. We're just going to go for little square legs. We'll probably just make this timber. We'll add that in the trim sheet. Yeah, be pretty cool. We can actually add a chair as well, but what time is it? 17 minutes. We won't go too extreme. We'll just add the desk, I think. So now we need to know where we're going to place our legs. So let's just Alt H and bring everything back in. We're going to select our table legs. We're going to go to the top. And what we're going to do is, well, actually we need to, trying to think, yeah, so we just need to move these in here. And then go into edit mode, and then we can move around. And this is probably the most roundabout way of doing this, but it's not going to be too improper either. Again, just move on the X-axis there. Just kind of tab in and out between edit and object. And if we look there, that's actually not too bad, not too bad. And I think what we could do is just come into object mode or edit mode, put a loop cut maybe around there, and then we're going to select this face and that face, and we're going to come up. We're just going to make sure we go back over to mirror and clipping is enabled or turned on, so we don't have nope, it's not gonna do it. It's not gonna do two of them. Remember, if you feck up, we're gonna sorry, I said this is live, so we're gonna hide everything else, and then we're gonna go into object mode. Remember, if you extrude something and then you're like, oh no, I don't want that, and then I extrude it again, oh no, I'm changing it, you know, I don't want that. You don't realize, lads, you're building up vertices. So select all, M, distance, 12 vertices removed, okay? So if you feck up your vertices or you feck up your extrudes, Make sure you keep selecting A and then M for merge all, okay? What we can do is we can actually just maybe put in, it's not going to really be worth it. Like you could put in an insert and make it smaller. You can make this a separate piece or whatever, but we're not going to do that, right? Again, we're thinking of our vertex count. We're making something PS1. It's going to be small. It's going to be post-processed to the max. So you see here, this is clipping. So you can see that I have clipped this so it cannot overlap. If I did not have clipping on and I press G, because remember we still have extruded, look, there we go, you see? Very important, have clipping on, because then you can guarantee that it's going to buttress together basically. And then we're going to do the same on this one. So, oh, I hadn't extruded that part. Okie doke, so there we go. And when I come back out into object mode, once you're happy with your table, when you're like, yeah, okay, I don't need to add anything particular or try and join shite together, you can just apply, okay? And then you can go back into edit mode and see these faces here. Just get rid of them, because we don't need internal faces. And actually, do you know what we don't need? We don't even need those lines. Oh, get rid of that. X and dissolve edges. There we go. And A and then M, just to make sure there's nothing rogue. And there we have it. So now we're just going to unhide everything. So Alt A, and then we're going to get this table. This is the tabletop. We're just going to lift this up a little bit. It can be clipping in a little bit. I'm just going to make sure it's kind of centered the way we want it. Ideal. And then we're going to just grab these and we're going to bring them where we also want them. Turn the X-ray off so we can see it a little bit easier. Look at the front, bring these down. And this is going to be like our little scene. Remember, these are assets that we can bring straight into Unreal or Unity or wherever you want. Like, it's always good, I think, to have a little bit of curve on some things. Just I think it looks a little bit more natural. I actually sit with my keyboard the other way around, but okay. Move this out of the way a little bit. You'll notice here, because obviously this is a single plane, you might need to just tamper with it a tiny little bit. And for that, I would say use Control. So you can see there that we've nearly a non-existent gap, but it's going to be enough to show. It's going to be enough to show the single plane. So in that entire scene, we have, these are our stats. So 6 objects, 168 vertices, 304 edges, 145 faces, and 310 triangles. If you're new to Blender, this isn't going to be overly relevant to you, but just think about it as the computer has to calculate each one of these at a time. So you can imagine if you had a whole office of computers, computer desks, towers, mouse, keyboard, the whole shebang, you're going to build up an awful lot of numbers. Now, Unreal Engine and stuff are designed to handle huge volumes of these, but it's a good practice to get good at modeling with as low of, I suppose, vertex, face, and edge count as much as possible. It's really, really important. When it comes to PS1 graphics, our end guns, let's go over end guns for a quick second. So we're just going to focus on our little mouse mat. For those that don't know, an end gun is anything with more than 4 sides. So you'll see this is 4 sides, that's 4 sides, that's 4 sides. Do PS1 graphics rely on end guns, or the getting rid of end guns? I don't think so. I might get roasted in the comments. If you know more, let me know. And yeah, maybe if you wanted to get rid of end guns, just put in a few loop cuts. You can put in some loop cuts. It's not the end of the world. If you are going to get rid of these before you rotate this particular item here, I probably would get rid of them before that, you know what I mean? And just connect the dots, you know, put in a couple of loop cuts and do that. But for our purpose, I don't think we're going to need them. To be honest with you, I don't think we're going to need them. I tried this yesterday and it doesn't seem all that important. So there we go. So this is our scene so far. And now let's move on to trim sheets. Now, so trim sheets. If you've been looking into making 3D design before, or if you've been looking at making game assets before, you probably will have heard of trim sheets. Okay, trim sheets basically is a sheet with all of your textures on it, and when you get your model, so basically anything you're making, you unwrap it kind of like a cardboard model or whatever, and you place it on your trim sheet. Now your trim sheet, you can place loads of things on top of each other if you're wanting the same texture or whatever, but the trim sheet is like a super handy way of compressing loads and loads of different textures and looks into one particular texture sheet that can be reused multiple times, and it keeps your memory usage in the computer engine, like so in Unreal Engine or Unity or Godot or anything like that, at an absolute minimum. Okay, so you have different trim sheet sizes. So this is going to be the easiest way to explain these texture sizes. Modern games for hero assets, like your Call of Duty characters, your weapon props, everything that you're going to see a lot of the time in the frame in a modern game, are typically going to be a 4K texture asset. And if we look here, we can see that a 4K, this is in pixels, is 4096 by 4096 pixels wide. Okay, so think of that as your size of paper. It's quite large. It's very large, actually. And that'll be an awful lot of memory. That's maybe about 2 or 3 gigabytes of memory for one single texture file, which is massive. Now for PS1 graphics, they use this, which is 256 by 256. So way smaller, way smaller. So we're going to create a trim sheet on a 256 by 256 size sheet. Okay, and then we're going to unwrap them onto our model. And I'm going to walk through all of this, and this is all free software, which is the most important thing. I've double checked here now. I use Adobe an awful lot, but Adobe have a free software called Adobe Express, which is this here. And this is the free version, okay? So I'm in my other profile. This is a totally free version, so you at home can use this for free. It's so much easier than GIMP. You don't need Photoshop. You don't need anything like this. You can just use this. And I'm going to show you how handy this is, okay? So we need to have a quick look and see what we need. We need some textures. So we need the likes of a computer texture, keyboard texture, mouse, a bit of timber maybe, and we would like to obviously have the tower as well. Maybe a wee bit of metal if we wanted. Why not? Let's throw that in as well. So that's what we're kind of looking for. So when we go into here, we're going to be looking to get images of those and put them in here. So I'm going to use two different softwares. Both are free. As I said, both are free. So I'm in Adobe Express. You can get that and open that and click in the link in the description. We're just going to actually go here, and this is what it'll open to. You'll have to create an account with them, but don't panic. You don't get any emails or anything. I get nothing from them. They're brilliant. And I'm not sponsored, just so you know. I'm just trying to make life easy for you. When you come to the Adobe Express screen, you're going to come over to this blue button, press it, and it'll bring this get started. You're just going to want to click square, okay? And that's going to open up this. Now, don't worry about the size or anything, because up here we can do the resizing. Oh, that's a premium. Okay, well, we'll find another image. Well, this will all be free, okay? I can resize, but we can make it smaller. Actually, do you know what? Why don't we not just create one the right size? Custom size, and go to pixels. So 256 by 256 pixels wide, okay? So this is our correct size. And we're just going to come up here and name it. We're just going to do desktop PS1 graphics, or trim sheet. Okay, so there we are. This is what we're going to be working with. Now, next thing we need is we are going to need images of old style computers. Now, I don't know the names of old PCs, but we're going to look at old desktop PC monitor. And we're going to try and find a really good image that we like. So something really neat. I don't want any of this shitty AI, obviously. So we're just going to have to do a little bit of scrolling. I have this made already. I can actually show you. Will I show you what we're going to be making? And this will give you maybe a better idea as to what we're trying to achieve. You'll have caught a little glimpse of it. So here we go. This is what we're trying to make. This is a finished trim sheet. So you can see that I've got a desktop monitor, the actual desktop itself. I have a little bit of detail, that's the side of this, the keyboard and the mouse mat. Now I'll put this in as well. Do you know what? Feck it. Whatever I make here, it'll all be linked. You can have access to all of it, including the Blender files, so you can have a try, mess around, open it up, and you can see. Again, too many tutorials don't do that. It's a nightmare when you're trying to start, okay? So I just want to run through this though to show you how you at home can do this. This is a super neat trick. Again, I wish I knew some brands of old computers. I don't. I had a Windows XP, so I'm just looking for one that's gonna be kind of neat. I wish there was a filter that I didn't need to see AI shite, but we were wanting a real computer. We're not wanting some AI thing. Is this AI? Does that, it looks AI. I think I used that Getty's image one before. Obviously, you can like paint these yourselves. For some of you artists out there that might be like super good, you can paint them. We kind of want this with this little bit of detail here, but it's not really large enough. This is actually harder. When I did this last night, it was much quicker. Maybe this is going to be the longest part of the video. I don't think so though. And if it is, don't panic, I'll cut it. So let's just try and find something neat, something tidy. Oh, I like that one, but it's kind of got this a little bit too much detail. And this is all AI, man. All of it is AI nowadays. Can I do no AI? Is there like a way I can do... Oh, I could do actually, do you know what I could do? For sale. That might do it, would it? Maybe I get one for sale. Hopefully. This one? Yeah, this'll do, this'll do. Do you know what? Feck it, this'll do. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna find a picture that you like, and we're just gonna use this picture for swiftness. So copy image, and in our Adobe file, we're just going to, oh, we're not gonna zoom out that much. We're going to come out here. We're just gonna fit our image into the cube. So small, so small. Now you can remove the background, right? Which is free, which is fantastic. Or you can edit it. You don't, I'm gonna show you something though where you don't need to be too fussy here, okay? You don't need to be too fussy in the slightest. We're just gonna get a few images. We're gonna get an old desktop PC tower for sale and try and see if we can find a really good image of one. Oh, I like that a lot. Oh no, this is even better. This is gonna be ideal. So we're just gonna copy that. And again, same principle. We're just gonna come in and we're gonna fit it in here somewhere. We can mess around with this in a wee bit. Just bring it down. You see how easy it is to edit things in Adobe Express? I normally hate Adobe, but some of the stuff is handy, ladies and gentlemen. Then we need a side actually. That's what we need. We need some sort of side, or we need to be able to pick. There's the top of that actually. Oh, there's the side. Ideal. So we're gonna get this. We're gonna take the top image. We're gonna punt that in there. This is kind of the fun part because what we're doing right now is going to be your finished model. This is what's going to be on the exterior. This is what your model is going to look like. Okay, so definitely that's the trick now. We all know if you're looking for something and you don't want AI, just type in for sale after it, and that's going to give you all of these absolutely awesome textures. You're going to get all these cool different views. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Jack, how are we going to be able to use these if, like, you know, they're not straight, like, which isn't great. But I have a plan. I have a plan. That's going to be in a minute or two. We just need to get a keyboard now. Keyboard. And again, for sale we'll do. For sale because I just don't want AI. AI can suck one. We're going to pick this nice yellow. I love this yellow look. That's got a bit of shadow. That's actually quite a nice one. God bless people that post pictures like this. That is ideal. I like that. Oh, actually, no, it was this one. Oh yeah, no, I prefer that one. A little bit more yellow. We can just come in here. I'm going to show you a couple of different tricks though that you can increase the yellow because the yellow is so important. And then what we need is we're going to obviously need, we're obviously going to need a mouse mat. So I went for an old IBM mouse mat for sale. Oh my god, I wonder could we get the Windows 95 one? That would actually be sick. I don't know whether to go for IBM or Windows 95. We'll go for Windows 95. 95. Mouse mat. That is so sick. Oh man, those were the days. Or Windows XP. That's what I grew up with. We're gonna use this one. That looks like a partial AI generated image, but you know what? We'll run with it because it looks badass. Plus it's gonna be pixelated to bejesus by the time we finish, so I'm not really too fussed. Now you can keep this image of the mouse if you want. Like, I'm not going to because I have another little trick. And again, it's just gonna expand how we're able to use all of this, okay? So I'm not going to need the mouse man. I'm just going to sit that down there. And then we need a wood texture. So wood and stuff like that is super simple. We're going to go for maybe veneered wood texture. If you put texture after anything, it's like dead easy to get. I think we're going to go for a color like this. I absolutely love that color. It always reminds me of like the old school desks. So we're just going to copy that. These are kind of more reference. We're going to be editing these so that we can change it how we like. Obviously, I don't want to be ripping people off. I don't want to be robbing stuff that you shouldn't be able to be robbing, all this crack. But remember, we are going to be post-processing this. We're going to be editing it. We're putting them in collages. I don't legally, where does that lie? I'm not 1000% sure. So sure, listen, if you know, leave it in the comments. So we have our wood texture and we just need a metal texture. So let's just do scuffed, rusty metal. Rusty metal texture, and let's just get something that's not too extreme, but something that's going to be kind of the vibe of PS1 by the time it's like rasterized or whatever the hell. It's going to be pixelated to bejesus. So let's just pick something real neat. That's actually not a little bit red, but maybe this area in here. Oh, it's a copyrighted image in Adobe. By the way, if you pay for the thing, you actually get. You can just search in here itself. You can go in here, click media and search. Some of it's free, some of it's not. I don't want to use that just in case it's not free. So, yeah, we're going to use this as our metal texture. It's a little bit bright. So this is where we're going to come in now and change a few bits. So some of the stuff you're just going to want to make sure that it's a little bit brighter. Again, we don't need to worry about the alignment or anything, but we just want to make sure that like all of these kind of match in color. So we can select these and we can just click adjust. And then especially with old computers and stuff, you can kind of increase the yellow hue a little bit, which does make it a little bit more yellow. We can increase the saturation as well if you wanted. Again, it is going to really depend on what you want your game to look like and what type of assets you're making, but it is good to kind of get into the habit of just making sure these look okay. That metal is way too bright, so let's just absolutely plummet all this down a little bit, drop the brightness, increase the contrast. There we go, a little bit more meaty. We'll make it a little bit yellow as well, and a little bit more with the saturation to bring out a bit of that blue. This, I actually don't think I have any issues with this. Increase the sharpen to bring out the texture in the wood maybe a little bit more, but other than that, I think the color is great. And this one as well, we're just going to increase the saturation a tiny little bit, increase the yellow, and maybe just increase the contrast a little bit, so we get that deepness. Actually, we'll just increase the contrast here as well a little bit more. Yeah, okay, perfect. And the windows, well, we don't need to do anything with the windows. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do, this is our first pass, okay? So this is what I want you to understand is this is our first pass. We're going to then put this image somewhere, okay? So sounds like somebody's breaking into my house, but I'm sure they're not. I hope they're not. Just gonna place these around here like this somewhere. Just doesn't need to be perfect. Doesn't need to be perfect. We just want to try and get these in here enough that it's gonna look okay. So we'll just pump that over there. Because this is only 256, we are gonna need it a certain size. We're gonna need this. Try and keep these images as big as possible. Just because what I'm going to show you, okay? So we have this, and we're just going to go to the background, and we're going to get rid of the background. Okay, so if you followed along, you'll have this, which is awesome. And we have our first, I suppose, mood board for the trim sheet. The next thing we're going to do then is we're going to download this, download it, and then we are going to, I'll check my other thing here for a second. Ah, yes, Sand Ripper. That's what we're going to do. So, Sand Ripper. The texture ripper. I'm going to leave a link for this in the description, so don't panic. So when we've downloaded it here off of Adobe Express, you're going to want to go to Sand Ripper, or have that open already. And then we're going to come in here, just your download history, and just drag and drop. Okie doke. So this is our textures. Now, probably what we would want to do is make these a little bit larger so they're not absolutely butchered. Oh my god, these sizes are so small. But yeah, so what Sand Ripper does is it can take an image at angles and it can realign them so that they're basically like this. They're flat. Now, you'll see this is what our textures so far look like. If you made this larger, when you bring it into Sandripper, it's going to look a little bit neater. It's going to be looking an awful lot crisper anyway. But you can see that we've absolutely butchered the resolution now. So perhaps going back, yes, make this a little bit larger, but let's work with it the way it is and see how it goes. So we have our screen here. Awesome. When you have this selected and when you've got the outline, basically just drag these around and you can see in here, it's going to create a perfect square. Then when you've got one done, you add another layer, and we're just going to come over here then, and we're just going to get this desktop over here. It's not bad for us free software, guys. It's not bad in the slightest. And you can see, yeah, we have that. So that's our second layer. We're going to get our third layer, which is this kind of color here that I want, because this is going to be the side of the computers. Oh my God, they're so small. It's definitely great for huge volumes of pixelation. We can have this here, which is ideal. Then we're going to add another layer. We're going to get our Windows 95 this time. The mega pixelated Windows 95. There we go, Windows 95. We're going to get another layer, then we're going to get our timber. So just get that there. It's actually working really well. The PS1 graphics are quite easy to do, so I really hope I can get some music over the top of this, but YOLO if I can. And then we're going to get our metal. So basically all you have to do is just literally go around and just line out. For flat objects, you don't technically need to. Sandripper is great for turning a 3D object into a 2D file, like, or, you know, where it's in perspective, we'll say. For the wood and the metal and the Windows 95, you probably wouldn't need to. You could just work with that the way it is in the actual Adobe software. So this software is specifically designed to work with these kind of, I suppose, images in the perspective. So we're just going to make sure we have as many colors as possible, and that's going to give us some option. And there we go, 1 and 2, and there we go. How does that look? A little bit squeezed. A little bit squeezed, to be honest. A little bit squeezed, but listen, I think we should be able to work with that. I think we should be able to work with that in the soft, like with our mesh. I think we should be able to work with that in our mesh. If not, we can always just come back in here and just retain this, neaten it up a little bit if we want. It's not going to be the end of the world. Really, it's this one, and these that we need. These are the three most important. So once you've got all this, just click export. Export as a PNG, and that's going to come in here. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come in. I actually wonder, can we just fire this on here? But we can create a new one. Again, 256 by 256. Oh, there we go. And then we're just going to drag this in. It's a little bit slower. Like, it's not like the fastest process on the planet. I get that, but it does yield some really good results. So with this, with Adobe Express, I just love the editing. I think the editing's really quick. I think it's much easier than GIMP, but I said it is by no means required that you use Adobe Express. If you're good at another software, please use that instead. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it just so I have one sitting there, and we're just going to trim all of these. So we're just going to make this a little bigger, and we're just going to come in and trim it all. I actually think you can just come up here as well, by the way, and go into crop and go square, and then if it was not all the way over there. Okay, no, never mind. We won't use the crop, I don't think. Can we crop? Oh, we can, yeah, okay. See, it's complicated no matter what you're doing. No, do you know what? We're not using that crop. We're just gonna crop it normally. Like, we're just gonna crop it normally. Oh man, crop tools. What an absolute nightmare. Where's the crop? Just cancel that, okay. What the heck? Why is that not letting me now edit? Oh, mama. See, I'm telling you, it's not easy. We're just gonna paste that in there. We're just gonna get in here. Gonna edit this. I try and keep some of these mistakes in and stuff because, like, nobody's perfect, you know, and it is a wee bit daunting when you're working for the first time and you're like, oh, I don't know whether to, like, should I be making these mistakes? Do other people make these mistakes? You know, yeah, everybody makes mistakes, so definitely don't be worried about that. It's super, and I think it's kind of important that people get to see that when it comes to design, because wouldn't everybody love to not make mistakes? But it's not the case. Everybody does. And these can be kind of complicated things to wrap your head around, and that's totally cool. You don't need to be an expert at it or to be a genius straight off the bat. It does take a bit of practice. But sometimes I do find that some of these tutorials do miss out on an awful lot, which is kind of sad. So that's why I'm trying to do these tutorials and show you with free methods so that hopefully you at home, you're not put off by the fact that there's a price. You're not put off by the fact that it's too complicated. And you can get designing, making those game assets, making your own video games. So all we're doing here is we're just going to start aligning some stuff so that we have these colors. And if I was you, when you're doing this, think about it in size. So what's the most important? Where you're going to need the most detail? What's going to be the most seen? Okay, these are big things to take into consideration. For something like a cup versus a wall, don't have the cup texture this size. Have it much smaller. Have the wall as big a texture on this sheet as possible. Just because you're going to want it. You're going to want to have that little bit of space. So I'm just going to make sure every time you get this, by the way, and you're going to cut out of it, just copy it and paste it just so you have it down here, because it can be a little bit funky sometimes. There we go. Windows XP, ideal. And for those that are wondering, is this applicable to other, where's that? Where did that go? For other, like, more modern modeling, 1,000,000%. If you can master trim sheets, which can get incredibly complicated, this is the easiest style of trim sheet, but they can get incredibly complicated, then you become a far more valuable asset. Believe me, you become a far more valuable asset. So do try and get as good at the trim sheets as possible. And to be honest with you guys, PS1 graphics are some of the easiest ways to become super familiar with the process of trim sheeting, because it shows you how to make a model very simply. It shows you how to make a trim sheet and research it and place it out and make sure that you have what you want, etc. But it also will teach you an awful lot about UV unwrapping, which is the bane of 3D modeling. I'm saying that here and now, but you can't go wrong. I promise you, you cannot go wrong. So we're just going to get an extra little bit of color here on this one, just so we have a variety. To be honest with you, I don't really think this one is necessary, but we'll throw it in anyway. Now, if you're on Photoshop and stuff, again, as I said, there might be easier ways of doing this, but I don't want to focus on Photoshop when it's a software that somebody has to pay for. It's a bit like, you know, with Blender. I don't think that people should be focusing too much on like some Maya and stuff if you're not doing it for a living. If you're not doing it for a living, why would you bother? I like this keyboard here, but I think that it's just a wee bit too pixelated for me. So I'm going to just copy this image again. I'm going to come into here and I'm just going to paste it, and I'm actually going to put, I think, this one back in. Just do a wee bit of editing. I'm going to keep the two there and we'll have a look and see, okay? I think that's going to be a wee bit too squished to kind of butcher the, it's going to butcher the look of it a little bit too much. Whereas this one is definitely going to be super crisp. When we're working with such a small size, you don't want to really destroy your image too much, because it can be an absolute nightmare to kind of retain some detail. So if we look here, this is our image sheet. Now you can move these around whichever way you want. You know, you can try and make it neat. I think that's probably a good idea. Trying to make it a little bit neater. Did I make it neater? No. Could I have? Yes. Could I rotate things? Absolutely. Have I? No. So I don't know what to say to you on that one, but there you go. This is our trim sheet for the office. So we're just going to change the background then to blank, which is great. So this is a transparent PNG now, okay? So we're going to come up here and we're going to say final PS1 comp and disk trim. Okay, so now we have this. This is our finished trim sheet. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring this into Blender and we're going to unwrap the model and apply this texture to the model. So let's move on to the next step. Okay, so now trim sheets. Well, you'll have downloaded this. Make sure that it's in transparent PNG and size. We're already at our pixels, and you can just click download. Okay, so we now have our download up here. Then what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come into Blender. Blender, here we go. Now, how do we get the trim sheet onto the model? Great question. Great question. So I'm going to show you. It's much simpler than you'd think. First, we need to add a material to each of these. Now, I think there's a way we can join them all together and do it that way, but for simplicity, I'm just going to keep it like this, where every object is independent. And then I think once we join them, it should all work anyway, okay? So we're going to start off with the desktop. So we're going to hide everything, so Shift and H. Then we're going to go to the top, and we're just going to recenter that so it's kind of zeroed like. What we're going to do then is we're going to go into edit mode, we're going to go into edge select mode, and we're just going to select all these edges, and we're going to mark seams, and I'll show you why now in a second. So once we've all of these edges selected, we're going to right click and come down here and click mark seam. Super important. Oh, let me move my head back up here for a second just so I don't block anything. Now we have all of these seams marked, and basically what this does in the software is it says that this face, they're not connected. Okay, now you don't need to mark every sharp seam. Maybe the computer is going to be a better example of this, but for something like this where we might want to place a different face on a different image, this is kind of a handy way of doing it. What we want to do then is come over here, and we want to come down to this little red hazard looking button that says material. Click that, just like make this a little bit wider. We're going to assign a new, so we're going to click new. We're going to come down to basic color, and we're going to click this little yellow button. We're going to do image texture, and we're going to say open an image texture. We're going to come down to downloads, and we're just going to come up here and do that. I'm going to blur that screen out because there's stuff on it I don't want you to see. Okay, so we're going to open this up. Now, what we'll see here is that we have our final PS1 comp and desk trim PNG as the material for this. Now don't panic, I'm going to show you how to get it in the engine and everything like that, so don't be worrying. All we've done is we've assigned the trim sheet that we just made to this particular model. So we know that that one piece of paper, we're going to unwrap this model onto that one piece of paper. That's going to set those points, and then what happens is when we bring this model into the engine and we get the material into the engine still reads it as one piece of paper, and it takes every single point from our model and unwraps it as it was in Blender. Okay, this is the whole principle. So how do we see it here on the model? Well, you come up here and you just go up to viewport shading. Ta-da, there we go. But that obviously does look absolutely ghastly because that's not obviously what we want to unwrap. So let's unwrap it. And by the way, if you're doing video game assets, you're gonna absolutely love UV unwrapping. Said no one ever. So you come up here, type out this line, and just right click, and then you'll get an option for vertical split. This allows you to have two different screens. In one of the screens, then you're gonna come up to the top left-hand side where it says editor type. Come down and go to UV editor. Ta-da! There we go. That is our image. So we're just gonna push this. We don't need anything in here now for the time being. So this is our image that we've made, and as you can see, we've all these squares that correspond to a face on our model, and if we just select that and move it around, we can see that we can change where that's going to get projected. But we need to unwrap it first, so we need to click A, then U, and then mess around with this, I guess. You can kind of mess around with this however you like. It's, you know, I think for when it comes to PS1 graphics, you're going to allow stretch and all that. It's not going to be too vital that everything's like super conformal. So I wouldn't be too fussed. You know, there's lots of different types. There's minimum stretch. There's everything. So there are a lot of UV unwrapping options. Play around with them. You'll get loads of different styles, loads of different shapes, all of that. Really, it's going to be their light map that should fill out the whole thing in squares. Yeah, so you can really mess around with this however you see fit. It's not going to be too vital. What we're going to do then is we're just going to, whilst everything is selected, we're just going to, actually I think I'm going to go with conformal might be the best, and then we're going to move over. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to identify what's the front. So we know that this is the front of our panel and that corresponds to this face. So we're going to come over here. We're going to come over and press 1. And we're just going to move these around. And literally, guys, this is all you're doing is that you're painting whatever is on this. Just make sure it doesn't go out of bounds. Just going to make sure that whatever this face covers on this trim sheet is going to be shown there. Look, we have our computer. So not terrible at all. You can rotate these faces and everything, which is super handy. So we're just, again, going to go into face select. We're going to get this. We're going to move this over here. We're just going to, you can scale, by the way, as well, which is super handy. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to look right for how you want it to look. You see? So look, see, we're already getting our computer. I'm just going to get this over here. And you know what, we'll actually use this over here, I think. So that's all you're going to want to do, is you're just going to want to move these faces around so that they are where you want them to be. And this is practically, this is it. This is UV unwrapping. This is as good as it gets. So even like with the back, what we might want to do is just try and get a little bit of that detail. And how does that look? Not great. I think what we might do, maybe add a back panel in as well, guys. That might be worthwhile. Actually, that's a great example. There is a great example. How trim sheets work is that this actually replicates time and time again. So you have this sheet and then you have the exact same again and the exact same on either side. So if I bring this up here, look, it's coming to the windows. And if I go over this way, it should bring the, yep, it's bringing the computer screen. So that's how UV unwrapping works, which is why they call it tileable textures. So this is not tileable. Trim sheets are not tileable, but tileable textures are where you have one sheet that can be replicated time and time and time again. Okay, so we don't need to worry about that for today. We're just doing trim sheets. So and again, we're just going to bring this down in here, throw it in there somewhere. Okay, so we have our computer. There we go. We have now unwrapped, UV unwrapped our first ever item. There we are. Ta-da! It is a computer. Obviously, the more you have here, the more detailed you can make this look. I'm just making this very simply just so you have a good idea as to how it works and how you can apply it yourself. But there is a wee bit of grunge there on this material, so you can kind of mess around with this. Probably just come in here to this face and just rotate it 180. Just so we have a bit of grunge maybe on the bottom a little bit rather than the top. Yeah, so there we go. Like, that is our desktop thus far, and that's it in perspective mode. Oh, there we are. So there's our computer. So what we need to do now is we need to obviously Alt and H to bring everything else back out. We're going to follow the exact same paths again. So let's get this. I'm turning this off and on, by the way. This turns off your I suppose all your details. You can come in here and change all of this nonsense. I normally have scene world off. I have scene lights on, and that way it's like fake illuminated. And just make sure this is turned on so we can see what we're selecting. Again, Shift H, and then we're going to come in again, and we're just going to select this face, the top face, and the bottom face. Switch to edge mode, and then all we're going to do is come to mark seam, and then we will want to just select these two edges, this one here and this one here, and again just mark seam. There we go. And so now we need to assign our materials and everything, so let's get this done. So here again, it's the exact same process, except you don't need to click new this time. Okay, so all you need to do is come down here and browse materials, and then browse the material that is the one you've allocated. If you go into your, you can put a name to this. So the first time you're doing it, you can put a name to it, or you don't need to. It's up to you, obviously. But if you're looking for it again, just come down here, click this little down tab down button, and you can find it in there, and that'll bring it up into the UV island here. Select all, and then unwrap conformal. Yeah, that's probably going to be just as good. And then we're just going to move this out of the way for a second. Make sure face select is on. Drag these down, and we're going to make sure that this looks right. So again, like when you're doing wood and stuff and you're wanting to see the grain, we can see that grain here. So if obviously you don't want your grain to look like that, because that's not how a table would be cut. So you're wanting it looking like this. And then let's just make it square so it really narrows down that grain a little bit. There we go, perfect. And if we can see there now, that's our wood on the table. And then we're just going to click this face. We're going to do the exact same. So we're going to do it 90 degrees. Or we're not going to do 90 degrees. Rotate to 90 degrees. There we go. Going to come in here and we're going to scale on the Z axis or X axis. Scale in a little bit. Put that in there. Scale it up again a little bit. You want to try and capture as much of that as possible. Just double check on this. Yep, that looks pretty decent. Looks like it looks like the top. And then with these, again, these are the edge pieces, so we're just going to rotate these 90. So again, they're going with the grain. We're just going to scale down on the X, bring them in, and then we can scale on the Y if we're wanting like sharper details on the edges. It's not really relevant, but you can just see there. Okay, so that is our table now done. You see how fast this is? This is pretty fast. So if we Alt-H to unhide everything, we now have our table with the wood, we have our desktop computer, and now we're going to move on to, we'll do the keyboard. Let's try the keyboard. I'm excited for the keyboard. So Shift-H, hide everything, go into edit mode, select this face, go into edge mode, and then mark seam, and then just click down there on the bottom. That's not going to let me do that. Okay, just make sure all the vertices are done. So just select the top and bottom, go to 2 and click mark seam, and that'll do it. And then just click these little edges if you want. Like for such a small asset like this, it really isn't too relevant, but then what we're going to do again is the very same principle. We need to get our material in here. So we're going to come into the side here whilst we're in edit mode. We're going to come down, we're going to click material, and there we go. We've UV unwrapped everything. We're going to select all, unwrap conformal, and there we have it. Okay, so we're just going to move that out the way. We're going to select the top face, so obviously this is the one we need the keyboard on, and we're just going to try and fit this in so we can see it ideal there. We just want to make sure that it looks really well. Bring that in a little bit there, we'll say, and scale it on the Y just to capture all those keys, and then we can go in and just manually adjust how we see fit to make sure that we're getting all that detail in that we want, especially for something like a keyboard, because you're going to want to see that bit of detail. There we go, that's our keyboard. So now we just want to get the bottom. And I think with the bottom, what we'll do, to be honest with you lads, we'll just throw that in one of these yellow patches here, probably in the darker side over here, because it's not going to get seen anyway. You wouldn't even really need that face. And these, we're just going to, again, bring it to one of the darker areas over here, and we're going to scale it down. And what you can do is you can definitely overlap these. So don't think that you can't overlap them. You can overlap them any way you like. It's not going to be in any way, shape, or form relevant. So if we look there now we have our we have our keyboard. Now, it has moved around. So what we might want to do is we might want to come in here and select it, select the top face, come in to this side and just R180. There we go. And we have now realigned the keyboard. Double check to make sure everything's okay. Come back out, turn that off, go on to perspective. Ta-da! Oh, camera clipping. That's actually something. We'll just, you know what? We'll cover that just now. If you're wondering why that happened, camera clipping, if you press N and just go to view, you can see camera start clip and end clip. So we're just going to change this to 0.1. There we go. And the end is, we're going to put up to 1,000. If you're default, this should be okay. I've been messing around a lot with this, so that's why it's a wee bit gammy. There we are. We're now looking really, really well. So we're going to do the metal then next. So again, come back over here, turn that on, get the metal, Shift H, hide everything, come in here, just make sure everything, we don't have any weird vertices or anything like that. I think, to be honest with you guys, what you can do is you can use a Smart UV Unwrap without actually doing, without using edge seams, but I don't think it works overly well, Smart UV project. you can't really control how it unwraps. So it's not something I'd be too keen on using. I would much rather apply the edges myself. I think it's going to be much better, and I think it's something you should get in the habit of doing, because it's something you need to be skilled at as you move along as a modeler. Okay, so yeah, definitely apply edges yourselves. When it comes to something like this, you've loads of ways of unwrapping it. You know, you could do the legs. So say if we just went into edge select and selected this edge here on every leg, which is, again, as I said, quite tedious, but I'm not even covering like face topology or something, so it's not too bad. If you just select these edges, bum bum bum, there we go, there we go, and there we go, and then mark the seam there. What we can do is actually this entire exterior, we can make one entire large unwrap. So we'll just mark seam there. Again, we'll probably just do the top, because this isn't going to be seen, so we don't technically need faces there, but because we're working on such a small model, it's not really relevant to be losing 4 or 5 faces. Again, you could if you wanted, but it's really not relevant. So we're just going to come in here now and mark these like that. So genuinely think about it like an item that you've made with paper or something, and how then you would make that yourself. You know, so we can see here that this exterior face is going to unwrap as one, okay? And then we can see that the legs, we have, this is the seam here, okay? Let's put it in perspective so you can see it a bit easier. So this is the seam. So this face, and this face, and that face are gonna unwrap like a piece of paper. So just imagine it like paper. It's a good way to kind of get in the habit of thinking about it. I think anyway. So again, we just have a quick look, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna probably just put 2 seams here on this side, because they're gonna be the edge, so they might not be seen as much. And that way then this entire piece here, this, that's all going to be one piece, and I think it's going to look the best, to be honest with you. Now all we need to do is just go down here and just select the bottom. Actually, there should be an easier way of doing this. We can just come in here, ensure that X-ray is turned on. By the way, to move in here, you can just scroll your scroll wheel, and that moves the menu. Select 1 so we get the vertices, go to 2, and then click mark seam, and then that's us. Now if we come in here and we unwrap, let's go unwrap conformal, I think. Unwrap minimum stretch, and then unwrap there's a way we can do this, because now that's minimum stretch. No, that's not going to work. We're going to need conformal, I think. What in the name of Jesus is this? Oh, is that the bottom? It shouldn't be the bottom. You see what I mean? Always problems. Always problems. Cube projection. Maybe that's gonna be the best. Let's give it a shot. So first and foremost, again, we need to come into our materials tab over here. Click down. Click the material we're wanting so we can see it, and then we're gonna want to start clicking some faces. So we want this face here, which going to try and separate some of these. If you're wondering how I'm doing this, if you press L, you can separate things. So it'll select whatever's nearest, and you can kind of separate things pretty easily, especially like this. It's been a while since I've done UV unwrapping properly, so you must forgive me. Oh, that's just the feckin' bottoms. That's all that is. Oh my god, there's so many little pieces. So when we explode it all out, you can see that there's quite a lot of parts. You know what I mean? So the UV unwrap is quite complicated, and you might be thinking, am I absolutely delusional for doing this? No, lads, there is no way of doing this that is easy. UV unwrapping is a catastrophic nightmare. Now, why it has not unwrapped around there, I'm not 100% sure, so I just want to double check on that. Light matte pack, maybe? Yes, that's much better. Much better, much better, much better, I think. Let's have a look and see. It does highlight it, so you know that, say, that is it. When you select a face here, it also selects the face in your viewport window. So that metal is very, very bright. Again, it's metal. Are we really that fussed? Probably not. So let's try and squeeze as much of this in as possible. We'll just do it quickly, guys. You can spend as much time on this as you want. I don't want to spend too much time because you're already probably bored rigid. So I hope not, though. I would also like to hear your comments down below, maybe to see what you guys are making if you're still watching the video. And if you have any tips or tricks that you could share, because again, it's all about learning. So if you have some experiences that you can share yourself, or other maybe cool apps like that Sand Ripper, whatever it's called. What was it called again? Yeah, Sand Ripper. If you have some other cool tools like Sand Ripper that might help people, make sure you let them know. I really am hoping that I can find some cool music though for this video, because I think that would make it if I can get some cool PS1 style audio. I think that'd be badass. So we're just gonna move it down. Again, I could cut all of this out. I could cut all of it out, but I don't want to cut it out. I want to show people how you do this. You know, that's my whole goal. I don't want to cut things out because I don't think it's fair. You know, people can start from zero, and not enough people sometimes show that, and I don't think that that's fair. So we can see here it's super low poly, and we've now done this part. So we're going to unhide things again. We're going to have a wee gander. And it's very bright, but remember, in your engine, you're going to have post-processing and all this. You can do an awful lot of material meddling in Unreal or Unity or anywhere like that. You can do stuff with lighting and everything. Remember, this is a very flat light that we're currently seeing. There is no lights in this scene that I've put in, so it is just literally just standard industry unlit scene, I guess, would be the best word for it. Like, so don't panic about how much it looks like here. Remember, in your engine, you're going to be able to do an awful lot. But just think, this entire file size is absolutely tiny. So let's move on to something a little bit more complicated. We're going to just hide everything, Shift H, and we're going to have a look now at the computer. Okay, because you might look and go, oh Lord, how would I unwrap this? And to be honest with you, lads, it's not much more complicated than how you would think you'd do it. So again, it's just kind of identifying where you want your seams to be. And sometimes you do have to do a wee bit of footering, but it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world, so don't be panicking. Just want to select your edges. Make sure everything's selected, otherwise you can get weird artifacts. I really wish I'd put the back of a computer in, because I could have added something in there which would have been really neat. But it'll be all right. It will be all right. The PS1 graphics really bring me back, though. There we go. So, yes, most people would say now you need a seam down the middle. And why? Why? Well, you do obviously need to unwrap. So sometimes it can be handier. It can unwrap a little bit nicer if you have a seam. You don't need to unwrap that part. So we'll just try. We'll throw one seam in and we'll see how it goes. Because now when you think about it, that'll just unfold around. This will unfold. Like this will unfold. Everything kind of unfolds. So let's have a look and see. The best thing is to try it like so. Again, we're in here. Let's move our stuff around. I have 3 computer monitors in front of me and it never feels like enough. We're just going to do that material again. And we're going to click all and then unwrap, and then, man, I'm really going to have a look at this. I'm going to have a real look at this. I think if I click that and then that and then proactive quads, ta-da, it does straighten out. Yes, I thought as much. Okay, what face is that? Oh, that's the interior face. Where's this face? That is not too bad. Okay, so dun. Just L, by the way. Again, remember I said L, select something, click L, press G. You can move it around. L, G. Saves you selecting all the faces. L and G. Where the heck is that? Oh, that's the inside. Okay, I was wondering. Where the heck is the screen? Oh, this is the screen. Okay, let's throw the screen on. So just need to again identify where this is. This is going to be on its side. You could add some cool shit to this. You know what I mean? You really could. You could put whatever the hell you want on the screen. To be honest. Or remember, if you're doing like animation, just do bright green, and you can just green screen it out. Never forgetty, there's more ways, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Oh, I don't skin cats, I love cats. You do love cats. I'm allergic to cats. No, it's fair. Some punishment. If I was a holy man, I'd believe it was God, but I'm not. I can't be when he won't allow me a cat. Very unfair. Okay, so there we are. Go mad. You see, you go mad. I'm telling you that. You go mad when you're UV unwrapping. Where the heck is this? Oh, this is the back. Okay, we're going to throw that in there. This is the front. No. Well, I tell you what I do want is minus 90. Nope. 90. Nope. 180. There we are. I'm actually going to add this in, I think. I'm going to do I'm going to do some tweaking. Not that type of tweaking that y'all Americans be used to, but that and then this type of tweaking. Do a little bit of tweaking down here because I'm going to see if I can get that bit of detail. I want that detail. But I think I haven't left enough. We'll see. God loves a trier, ladies and gentlemen. God loves a trier. Just want to make sure that we're in there. How does that look? Oh, that's stretched to bejesus. Okay, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. I'm going to get rid of all of that. Nope. Yes, perfect. Okay, so I didn't manage to get that. Just be wary of that, I guess, then. That's a good learning curve. Make sure you have enough space. You can see I've kind of got it cut real short there, which isn't probably the best. So, yeah, bear that in mind. Bear that in mind. Listen, as I said, we all make mistakes. So, it's not the mistakes you make. It's how you come back from them. Or my father used to say, just don't do it again. So, just gonna squeeze some of these in here. I'm gonna be kind of like nonchalant, but this is all yellow. It's all yellow. I got cracked. Oh my god, man! I used to do so much. Like, I've done so many UV unwraps, and it has been so long. And you know what? I actually liked the break. It was heartbreaking. What the heck is this? Is that? No. Oh, this is just the inside. Oh, there we go. It's not straight. Does it need to be straight? No. If we had some cool detail, we could throw some stuff on the back here. I wonder, could we maybe try and throw something in here? I think we nearly could. Let's try and flop around a little bit. Yeah, we can add. There we go. Looks like some ports. Yeah, well, that looks good to me. Alt and H to unhide everything, and then we're just gonna have a wee gander. And I'm leaving the mouse mat. I'm going mad. I'm leaving the mouse mat to last because I think it's gonna be the coolest. So, there we go. So we now have our computer. We have our desktop. We have our keyboard, and the mouse mat. How is he gonna do it? I hear they shout. Well, same as everything else. Can you imagine unwrapping complex models? It is not easy. I tell you that. It is not easy. Edit. Then what we're going to do, all we need to do here is see this bottom line. We're just going to create a seam there, and we're just going to separate that. Again, I really do not need it to be perfect. So we're just going to create a quick seam there. All unwrap, angle-based. Ta-da! Oh, this is going to be so sick. It's one of my favorite parts, the mouse mat. Because we get to put in windows, baby. So let's just get this in here. In the center. Oh, it just looks so cool. Oh my gosh. It looks so cool. Oh. Jesus, I was scaling everything there for a minute. Then let's just bring this over here, I suppose, and let's see if we can have a wee look. See if we can maybe get one of these little green buttons or something in. Can we? I don't know. It'd be better if it was bigger, but I don't think we're going to get it that much bigger. I just would love that blue in there a little bit. Because it kind of looks like it's... kind of does look a little bit more mousy. Is there anything else that I could rob in there? Oh, actually, I could just use this up here. Maybe that would do it. Which side is that? Is it that side or is it that side? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think we're going to get it. Which is kind of sad. I'm sad about that now. But feck it, be alright. And there we have it. So this is our... I've gone delirious. Apologies about that. Join right. Okay, there we go. So this is our desktop. We now have... Oh, that's the perspective. This is the perspective view. So we now have our desktop. And what we've gone through is we've gone through the modeling, we've gone through the creating of the trim sheet, and we've gone through the application of the trim sheet. And all in all, we've such a tiny model. Such a tiny model, okay? If I just look, I'm going to have a wee look and see. Our trim sheet that we made, size-wise, is 132 kilobytes. So it is absolutely tiny. And that's the imperative thing when it comes to using trim sheets for really basic modeling, that you keep everything, like, you have to be efficient. You know, big games, loads of information, and that's why everybody complains about optimization. So when you're creating stuff like this, keep it nice and simple. Keep it nice and simple. It's amazing what you can do with post-processing in the game engine. You can also do an awful lot of material stuff in Unreal in the game engine. And the same with Unity and Godot. So when you're doing something simple like this, don't overcomplicate it. That's the big key part. Don't overcomplicate it, okay? As you can see, like, what has it been? Maybe an hour or so, and we already have a fully finished game asset. Like, I mean, I can literally, we can duplicate these, and we have a whole office. You know what I mean? Like, we can literally just duplicate these, make a few adjustments to however we want these to look. You know, we don't need to go anywhere too wide or too wild. We can literally just move them around a little bit, and we've effectively, there you go. There's an office, there's a library or whatever, and we're using feck all. And do you know what the biggest thing is that it's the same trim sheet for every single product. If we wanted to make chairs, if we wanted to make different sizes of tables, if we wanted to make a bookshelf, we can still use that one trim sheet because we've got wood, we've got metal, and we've got that yellowy plastic look. So if we wanted to make a filing cabinet, we could do that because we have that metal yellow kind of that look. We could do that. So be creative with it, think outside the box a little bit, and it would really, really surprise you. The more you can fit onto a really good trim sheet, the better it is, and the more your game is going to be efficient when it comes to running. It's so important. As you can see, like, we have enough there for a little office, and we could add so much more. We could do wood flooring, we could do table lamps, we could do light shades, we could do metal chairs. We could even, to be honest with you, if we use the lighter parts of this cream material, we could even do the likes of cups, plates, and we could do cutlery. It is endless. It is endless. When it comes to making your trim sheet, bear in mind, oh, this is the one that I made earlier, but bear in mind what you're adding to it and how much you can get out of it. I said, this is the one we've worked with there. This is what we've created. As I said, don't panic. I will have all of these in the description somewhere where you can download them. I'll find a way to do it. Or I'll put it on my Discord maybe. But think about what you're putting on this square. And think about, okay, well, that's wood. What could I use wood for? Okay, I could use it for floors. I could use it for bookshelves, furniture. I have this metally looking color. What could I do that for? Well, it is obviously for computers, but maybe I could do something else. I could use this, maybe this lighter cream area to make plates. I can scale down and just use this color. I like this color, or, you know what I mean? Like, I've two keyboards there, which you would never ever do. You would only ever have the one, but, you know, just for the purpose of this video, we're looking at it like that. You could have different screensavers. I would definitely do that if I'm doing more than one computer. Bear that in mind. I would have maybe a couple of small little images where you could have different screensavers, or some, even if you wanted to put a bit of variety, you could just scale one of the images down there so that it's black. you know, and it looks like the computer's off. Just be creative with it. What we're doing here is super efficient, and this is how games were made originally. This is how they made massive big worlds. They used to run on very, very, very limited information. These trim sheets would be absolutely mastered down to the T to get the most out of as little as humanly possible. So that's what we've after doing. This is what we're after doing. Okie doke. So I think, what have I got here? I also have a little, maybe a little hobbit house that I'm working on. So I'm trying something like this as well, and I might do a video on that as well, making a PS1 style hobbit house. Okay. So yeah, so this is where we are now. I think this is fantastic. What we're going to move on to now is we're going to look at exporting this and bringing it into Unreal Engine, and then setting up a basic material platform in Unreal Engine. I do need to download Unreal Engine, so it's a bit of a pain in the ass. I have not been using it much. I know I was working on my game, but just the way things are getting away from me. So yes, so let's get all that downloaded. Let's get this into the engine, and let's show you what you can do in the engine. Okie doke. So on to the next step. Okay, so now that we have our trim sheets done, the next thing that we need to do is we need to try and get what we've made in Blender with the trim sheets, with this unwrapping, and bring it then into Unreal Engine. Now, I just had to spend a bit of time there. I just re-downloaded Unreal Engine. I said it has been a while since I have used it, so bear with me. So I've just got an empty project here. I said you'll have your own world, and that's not a problem whatsoever. What I have done, and what I will do in the future, I'll do a whole video on it, is I will do like a, I suppose, like a file system in your Unreal Engine. Again, that's kind of handy. Much like Blender, everything should be organized. As you can see here, I just have everything broken down, and in my larger projects, that's what I've done. I've broken an awful lot down. So what I've done is I've just imported a few things here, but I'm going to show you everything that I've done. So just jumping back in Blender, what I've done is obviously I've joined the table, so the table is now one item. I have the desktop, the monitor, I have the keyboard, and I have the mouse in there as well. So what I'm just going to do is up here, by my own mistake, I haven't actually named these, so I'm going to just name them at the minute and see. Desktop, monitor, I have this, which is the keyboard, that's the table, and this is the mouse mat. Okay, so everything is named here now, right? So what we need to do is we need to go and export these, get these ready for export to bring them into Unreal Engine. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select them all. I'm just going to do all transforms to make sure everything's good. Everything's snapped to the center point, so I know where their point of rotation is. When I import these then to Unreal, they're gonna spawn like this, and this will allow us to move them around. If you want to set them as like a set asset, so say if you didn't want to have the computer move independently or anything like that, you can actually make the scenes here in Blender. That's not a problem either. Well, what you would do is you could just join them all together, or when everything's placed, set the location. I probably wouldn't advise doing that. I do think it's better to import them as independent assets with their own pivot points. If I go and put this this computer up here and then assign, like apply the location, the rotation point is going to be down here, and it's going to mess everything up. So it's a bit of a nightmare. I prefer doing it this way, going into the engine then and applying everything as it should. So what we need to do is we need to now get ready for export. So I'm going to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just select all, I'm going to go file and then export, and I'm going to export them as in, oh, move my head out of the way, I'm always having to move that out of the way. I'm going to go to file, I'm going to go to export, and I'm going to go FEX, okay? Now I don't need to do anything else, I'm just going to come down to where I want to go and then make sure that this is right, and I'm going to limit it to selected objects. I'm going to make sure that that's at auto, this is off. Object types, you can change them as you need to. The scale, yep. Apply settings, FBX all. Then it's going to be Y forward and Z up. Apply unit, apply scale, and then geometry. We're just going to change this to smoothing groups. And then that should realistically be us. So we're just going to title this. We're just going to name this. So we're going to say it's called PS1 PS1 underscore, we'll call it computer table. No, we'll just call it computer. Okay, so that's all we need to do. We're just going to do that, make sure that it's all right, and then we're going to export it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come into Unreal Engine, and we want to, why is this so slow? There we are. Oh, I don't know what I've selected. Deselect everything. Oh, moving around in the two softwares is so different. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a wee folder for our actual asset. So PS1 computer. Now, I've made folders here, so you can see here that in the content derived on YouTube files, YouTube PS1 graphics, and that should say PS1 computer table. We're just going to come in here, and then what we're going to do is on our computer, we're going to come in and we're going to come in and find wherever I saved those. Okay, so I messed up where I saved them. Don't panic about it. Just make sure you know where you're saving them. Don't do what I did and forget. So we have now saved them where we know we can get them. We're in our PS1 graphics, the computer table, and the computer. Okay, so we know we want to import our items here. Now there's a couple of different ways of doing this. We can click import, and this will bring you up this menu, which is my information here. This does work. Or you can just click and drag. It really is kind of irrelevant, but I'm going to follow the import rules. I don't think there's anything we actually need to change here. If I'm not right, or if I'm not wrong, we don't need to import the materials. So do we need to import the materials? No, I don't think there's anything we need to actually import there whatsoever. So we can just, as you can see here, we have all of this here. We have the desktop monitor, the keyboard, mouse mat, table, etc. And actually that's gone and made a material for us, which is so much handier. Okay, I thought we were gonna have to make a material, but apparently we don't. So I just want to make sure that we have snapping on, if I'm not wrong. Oh god. I said you must bear with me. It has been a long time now since I've worked in Unreal. Can I not fly? There we are. So as you can see, I've got the rotation point. Oh my goodness. This is terrible. Okay, well, what we've done now is we've just dragged it in. It's here. It came in with all its materials on it, and there is a material. And it's also kept the rotation point that we set in Blender with the scale. So that's super important. And all we need to do now is we just need to literally just drag and drop. I haven't got my Unreal Engine. This is 5.8, I think, that's downloaded. So I haven't got that set up yet, but as I said, this is just a brand new install. Then we have the desktop. We can just set the desktop there. We can get the keyboard, bring the keyboard in. There we go. We'll need to lift that up a wee bit. And there is the mouse mat. So let's just get the mouse mat up. So just, again, how do I do this? Where's the, here we are. Okay. So there we are. Just move that down. Okay, perfect. And then we're going to do the same here. I'm just going to move that up a little bit. Oh, the mechanics are very different. Like, you do forget. Maybe with the mouse, you might want to add a tiny little bit of depth. Maybe you would, maybe you wouldn't. Like, you can kind of just play around with it yourself. Like, there you can kind of get it where you wouldn't know that it's not attached, and there's no shadows or anything, so you can't really see anything, which is great. Rotation, we'll just turn rotation off so that we can move this as well. Just move that around there. And we have our desktop tower. And we'll just pop that. Just move these around a little bit so we can get a nice little scene. And there you have it, lads. That really is it. That's all you have to do. This is effectively how you make, model, and import a full model, a PS1 model into Unreal. And to be honest with you, like, this looks pretty good. You can see that it works there. Now, what you can do is you can make materials. There's any amount of tutorials on YouTube. I actually haven't done one, but I have done another Trimsheet video, which was a little bit more complex. It was using different software. It was using paid software. It was using Substance Painter. But I did have like a master material in that. And that kind of goes into a little bit more depth. It's a 40 or 50 minute video by itself, but you can control an awful lot more. Now, what I have done is this is obviously imported its own material here, which is pretty cool. Plus there is an awful lot of options. Wow, this is all new. 5.8 is incredible. This is really insane. Like, I've not seen any of this before, so this is all new. I was on 5. What was I on? 5.5, I think, or 5.6 the last time I used Unreal. What I had done was just kind of created this like basic tree, but to be honest with you, I think this is like what it's imported is nearly as good. I think if I come down here and then I can actually just change that with Unreal. Maybe I will do an Unreal video, but there's already great tutorials out there, lads. This is the material that's already there. I'm just going to try and see how that looks. Yeah, no, the normal map isn't really great. There is a bit, like you could mess around with it. To be honest with you, normals and all, you can work with them. You would just, I actually made a free, or I found a free normal editor. And I'm just going to show you what I did to get those normal maps, because you might want to use it yourself. And I suppose that does look a tiny little bit better. There's a wee bit of depth to the keys and everything. So not bad, really not bad at all. You do have a bit of texture there now with the normals. It obviously only imports so much. But again, as I said, I might not be the best person to talk about 5.8 with Unreal Engine. It's just not something I'm familiar with, so I just kind of want to stay with what I know. Now, what I did do in order to make this particular material, which is here, we obviously have made this, which is the base color material, but you do need all of these other ones. So there's ambient occlusion, there's displacement, there's normal map, and a specular map. And how I made these, because these are very important when you are making materials, and how I made them was with this really cool free tool. 1 second there. So how I made them was with this really cool free tool that I found, and it is called Normal Map Online. So this is it here. And what this seems to do is you can drag and drop your image in here. You can have your normal map, your displacement, your ambient occlusion, and your specular. And you can change all the settings and strengths up here. So definitely worth playing around with. And then all you need to do is just either download each one as you go, or you can click all and it will download all 4 files. So super handy, and again, free. So these are just some of the things that I wanted to go over. What I will be doing is I'll be doing another couple of videos on more items like this. I might actually build out a bit of a world just so I can show you some more modeling techniques. I would like to get a little bit more in depth with the trim sheets, the application of the trim sheets, and maybe even trim sheets for things like walls and for floors, which I think might be really cool. But there you have it, everybody. That is everything. I just realized I recorded all of that with my face. 1 second. Okay, so just as a quick side note, because I didn't realize that I had switched camera, which isn't much good. I just want to have a quick talk about collision, just because I did have a few people asking me about it. What people had noticed was when they were making doors and then they had brought them into the level, they weren't able to walk through the door. And to be honest with you, it's just a collision issue. So what I want to do is I just want to show you how to resolve that problem. So click the item that you want to make sure that the collision is correct for. Come down to the right hand side here on this menu. You'll see that the static mesh is there. Double click it. This brings you into a brand new tab. What you want to do is you want to modify the collision that's here. To understand this very quickly, this is what simple collision looks like, which is what most of your products will spawn with, or most of your items, apologies, will spawn with, which is where you can definitely see you would not be able to walk under this table. And what you're looking for is you're looking for complex collision, which is where you definitely could go under the table. And as I said, it does apply to doors or anything else of that matter. So how do you fix this? You come to the right hand side here, you scroll all the way down, you'll come to collision, or you can search up here and you come to collision complexity, and then it's set as project default as standard, but you want to come down and select use complex collision as simple. And this, the highlighted items here that you can see are the collision boundaries, and this just means that you'll be able to go under the table or walk through a door or anything like that. So that is pretty much everything. So Guys, thank you so much for being with me here on this journey. I hope it's in-depth enough. As I said, I know it's a long video, but it's going to be time-stamped. It's going to have every single thing. I hope I didn't miss anything out. I'll just double check to make sure that nothing's missed out. But we've gone from modeling in Blender to making a trim sheet with Adobe Express. As I said, you can use GIMP. You can... Pardon me, you can use Photoshop, you can use whatever you like. That is totally up to you. I just wanted to try and give some free alternatives. Then we brought it back into Blender. We used Sandreaper, which made us, it gave us the ability to take an object at that perspective and turn it into a flat surface. We brought it back into Blender. We were able to apply it. We were able to unwrap all our objects, all the UVs, so that the materials would work onto it. And then we're able to bring it into Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine gave us a default material, but by using normal map online, we were able to then create different types of maps so that you have more material options for your items in Unreal Engine. So listen, thank you very much. If you have any suggestions or thoughts or concerns or advice, let me know down in the comments. Please subscribe. I'd be delighted if you could. My mouth's all blah, blah, blah for talking for so long. But listen guys, yeah, take her handy, keep her lit, and I'll talk to you later.